Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Sports Daily right here on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage is with you. Paul is waving at the camera. I can see Paul. We're on a video stream right now. Paul, we've got in close today the tight shot of Mr. Savage. So if you want to join us on our video stream, we are just sort of getting that rolling. We'll have Tommy back next week. We'll get more of an official launch at some point soon. But we'll get into that as we make our way through. You can find that video stream right now on our KFH Facebook page, our KFH YouTube page, and our Sports Daily Twitter page. And, of course, we love when you're listening to this program. We love to hear from you on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. To everybody out there, we are just a couple of days away now from the NFL draft. So excited about that as well, taking place up in Kansas City. The preparations up there look fantastic so far. We'll get some more draft thoughts. We've got Wichita State Athletic Director Kevin Saul joining us coming up in the second hour. We're excited about that this week. We haven't talked to Kevin Saul in a couple weeks. They had to go find a women's basketball coach. They have that. We've got some recruiting news on the men's side. Softball and baseball are both red hot. All kinds of stuff to talk about with Kevin Saul. So we'll do that on the program here today as well. We've got Paul ready to go. How are you, big man?
I'm good. How you doing, big boy? You doing all right? What a great morning for coffee, huh?
Yes, it is.
All
it
right.
is.
Well, I just pointing that out.
I got some right here.
Attaboy.
Cheers to you.
Yeah.
It's always a great morning for coffee.
You bet. You bet. Cold. It's damp. It's gonna. I guess we're gonna get a little rain today. But I'll tell you what. I'm a little irked about the cancellation of games last night. It sure seems like to me, at least here in Wichita, I'm not going to speak about anywhere else, but sure seems like to me these games could have played. This game with OU could have been played. Now that's, I don't know, and I don't have all the answers, and I don't know the criteria, and I don't know the ins and outs and how you make those decisions. But didn't it strike you that you could have gotten that game in, and how beneficial could that have been for the Wichita State, program? I'm just saying. I'm not a weatherman, but I'm just saying.
Yes, but I think when you've got the number one team in the country, you've got probably a decision made early because they don't want to travel down here if they don't have to in Oklahoma. And it's still and in Stillwater, I think it was raining a bunch. So they had the moisture, and then the one here was more predictive. And they probably could have got it in. They got a wind surge game in last night. The rain has been a little west of us, supposed to get here today. Slow mover. So we'll see. It's unfortunate. It's too bad, but I get it. They didn't want to travel and then not be able to play. And you got to think about it. For Wichita State, they'd probably done anything to play that game, right? But Oklahoma's not in that same, Oklahoma is going to be number one no matter what happens. So it's like for them, I suppose I understand, but it's tough. It's unfortunate. The Shocker softball team will just have to get it done the rest of the way and hope that their resume now is good enough to host that NCAA regional. Yeah, they're going to be in the postseason. It'll be fine. It'll be all right.
They will be in the postseason. We'll see what happens, but golly, I'm just saying, man, that would have been great if we could have gotten that game in and seen that little game on take place. Oh man, and a win. What would a win? It might be. I'm going to go out on a limb. I say maybe the 64 Michigan State game with Dave Stallworth and Cassie Russell was a bigger game. But in the history of Wichita State sports, that might have been, if the Shockers won, the biggest win in the history of Shocker sports. I'm sitting here racking my brain. I know that's a bold statement. I get it. I understand that that's a bold statement. But on the other hand, man, I don't think I'm that far off.
No, you're probably not. And they had a couple big ones against Oklahoma State just this year, right? Like we've seen them already have those historic kind of wins this year. But they're you know what? It's all right. You got to go get it done you got to play the hand that's dealt to you, and they'll do that, and they'll be fine. They'll be just fine. Jason chimes in. By the way, if you watch our video stream, you can chat with us. Chimes in on my background here, Paul. It's coming together. It's a little disorganized, but at least it's not a big blank wall now. It's hard in the office that I sit in. I've already converted this once to a television studio. So like off camera, the other way, we had a whole TV studio for the COVID pandemic because I was doing all my home broadcasts. And so now like I got one over on one wall, and then now I'm trying to do another one on another wall. There's only so much you can do. I'll have to dig some stuff out. We appreciate Jason, the comment there. We appreciate everybody watching the video stream as we get that ready. Of course, everybody listening. Let's start with some draft talk today, Paul.
All right.
We mentioned it yesterday. It's been interesting. Will Levis has, really elevated as far as odds and betting with his draft status. I don't think he's going to go number 1 overall, but he's an intriguing prospect. And, I don't know what it would normally do, but the success of Josh Allen, I think, has people interested in Will Levis because he's got the big arm, big and athletic, inaccurate, all the same things we heard about Josh Allen. Then, of course, Josh Allen's become a great NFL quarterback. So I get it. Like, I get the appeal of a guy like Will Levis. Is it going to be enough to unseat somebody like Bryce Young, who's still highly up there as the odds-on favorite? I doubt it. And I go back to this, Paul. I don't know your thoughts on this. Tommy and I have talked about this before. It almost seems impossible for me to believe that Carolina would give up as much as they give up to move into that spot if they weren't already certain who they were going to take there. I just don't know if I've ever fully bought that there's been question at the top because, Carolina should, if you're giving up that much to go to the top at that point, you'd think it was because you want a certain player, right? I don't know if it's, hey, we kind of like a few of these guys. Let's get up there and then we'll sort it out later. That seems unlikely to me. I feel like they've had their mind made up for a while on this, Paul.
I think that's the circumstances of being sure where you're at. You're going to make some moves. You're going to work to get the spot, get what you want. You're going to give up some stuff. And that makes total sense to me. That's why when I saw that, and by the way, we're not just, spitting out nothing. We're not making this up. This is an article on sportsillustrated.com about the possibilities of really and truly the number 1 picks changing around a little bit. Bryce Young dropping down, and this kid out of Kentucky maybe moving up to number 1. I thought it sounded fishy. Now, I said the other day, it was either Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember which day it was. I said, I like this kid. I think this kid has a lot of upside. This kid has the body to be an NFL quarterback. He has the body to, take some punishment that you can see at the position of quarterback. He's got one of the strongest arms in the NFL. You talk about C.J. Stroud and his accuracy with regards to his arm. And Stroud or Levis is a powerful arm. He's got a great arm. He's a strong arm type guy. And so, everybody has their own little things. But I didn't buy in. I thought SI was probably barking up the wrong tree with this potential rumor. I don't believe it. I don't think that would be the case because you just made the case. They're doing some things. You've got to look and you've got to think to yourself, well, I just don't think that a team would trade up to take a guy like Bryce Young, and they're betting the farm on Bryce Young, and they're not going to mess around and change it. I don't think there's anything to the story about the number 1 pick being switched around. I just don't think there's anything to it, Jacob.
It is odd that you get an odds shift like that. I will say that, because to see it increase in that way, why? If it's such a foregone conclusion, what difference does it make? It's just a little bit interesting that you would see that. And I don't know if it's trying to sucker people in. I just don't know. We'll have a chance tomorrow to talk to Chelsea Messenger, our betting insider, about that because we'll talk to her before the draft. Just interesting, just interesting. Just something to keep an eye on a little bit as we get closer to the draft. Another one that we haven't had your take on yet, Paul, and I want to get this here today. Bijan Robinson. I imagine you're a fan, as being a Big 12 fan like you are, watching a lot of Bijan Robinson. Us around here, we've all seen and loved Deuce Vaughn all these years. But even while Deuce Vaughn has been such a rock star, there were a lot of people every year that thought Bijan Robinson was the best running back in the league. Where are you on Bijan Robinson? Does he warrant that rare first round grade for you? And, he's talked up the Eagles. We know the Cowboys need a running back. There are good teams that you would think maybe would take a swing on a player like that. Where are you on him in particular? And just kind of in general, taking a running back early anymore in the NFL?
Well, you don't do that very often. I mean, you talk about running backs, and over the years, we've seen many running backs taken. And what happens? Something happens with a knee. There's some sort of injury. I mean, a lot of bad things can happen to you when you're a running back. And it's the most vulnerable position on an entire football squad, both offense and defense. I mean, you look at the position of running back, it's hard to survive for a while. I mean, I marvel at these guys who get 10, 12, 14,000 yards rushing in the NFL because it takes durability almost as much as it takes ability. But anyway, with that being said, I don't know that I would take a running back. You can always get many draft guys always talk about, I'll go get a running back later. I can find a running back. We'll get a running back. There's a lot of running backs. And there's a lot of running backs to be had. Number 5, I don't know. But it's hard to compare Robinson and Vaughn. Very tough comparison. They're so different. One weighs about 220, 225. The other weighs what, 165 when he's wet and out of the shower? I mean, come on. I mean, it's hard to compare. Now, Deuce Vaughn, I got a feeling will be taken, but he'll be taken not as a running back, but more as one of those guys who can do things, line up in different places and be able to receive the ball in a variety of ways, whether it's through the air, whether it's through a handoff, whether it's through a pitch. Well, Deuce Vaughn brings so much to the table. I really like that. But he's 165. He's 165 pounds, Jacob. And therein lies part of the problem.
Well, I don't mean to say that Deuce Vaughn needs to go that early. I just mean, like, as great as we all thought Deuce Vaughn is, because he is.
He is.
Even in all of that, Bijan Robinson, for a lot of people has been considered, the best running back in the Big 12. So, like, if he is that good, where people are still willing to say that, even with all the success of Deuce Vaughn, I just am curious as we've watched him. I mean, he's awesome. I didn't ever watch them and him and put him in the same light as, I'm trying to think of, some of the backs who would have been in that mold, Todd Gurley before the injuries, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry didn't even go that early, but that kind of a player. Leonard Fournette did in college, and I think we could see it. I guess I just never saw Bijan Robinson that way. Now, that's not to say he's not, because almost universally he's loved. I thought, here's the better comparison for me, Paul. I thought Breece Hall was a better college football player. And Breece Hall didn't even get taken in the first round. And Breece Hall, by many people, was considered a transcendent talent and was showing those traits before his unfortunate injury. Hopefully he bounces back. But do you put Bijan Robinson in that type of mold? A player that's worth taking early when almost nobody takes running backs early? If the right spot, is he that much of a difference maker?
Well, probably not. I mean, for 4,200 yards in 31 games, I mean, that's impressive. That is impressive. But probably not with what is needed in the professional game. There's other things that you need, and it just with regards to a professional offense. So, no, I know you're looking at Bijan Robinson going in the top 10, probably, maybe. It'll be the first time in how many years, 5, 6, 7 years, that a running back has gone in the first 15 or 20 picks, something like that. So you're right. You're onto something on this. But, boy, I'll tell you what, I think to myself, and we hear the term best player available, and he's one of those guys. I mean, there's no getting around the fact that Bijan Robinson is one of the best players that's going to be available. The question is, what is your philosophy on how you get running backs? And it has changed significantly. Gone are the days when you would see a running back pick number 1 in the draft. Those days are long gone. And barely you get, running backs drafted in the first round, let alone in the top pick. So I'm going with the group. I'm going with groupthink. Wait on Bijan Robinson. There might come that point where you can pick him up and get him down the list a little bit.
I think groupthink thinks he's going to go earlier.
Well, I do. That's where the difference is. Yeah.
So, you've got teams that might do it, right? Like teams that could pull the trigger on that. I don't think the Lions are going to do it. They've invested there. The Raiders have made their decisions. So you got to look at Philadelphia sort of at 10. Houston's not going to do it. They've got a couple of picks there. Does Tampa, the Chargers are a team. Really, the three teams that I've heard, Paul, are the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. So the Eagles go at 10, the Chargers at 21, the Cowboys 26. I think Buffalo would make some sense at 27, so I'm going to throw them in there. And remember, Philadelphia has 2 first-round picks. So Bijan Robinson talked up the Eagles. They just went to a Super Bowl. I do think if somebody's going to do it, it's got to be a team that thinks he could put them over the edge. So
right.
Eagles, Bills, Cowboys, Chargers probably all do make some sense to add a potential impact game-changing player like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really, for me, it's a question of, did he look that way to you in college? He didn't necessarily to me. I thought Breece Hall was better college running back. And I'm totally willing and not that, anchored to that to say that Bijan Robinson's not going to be a superstar. He for sure could be. I just don't know if he's the kind of talent that makes you take that risk. The Cowboys did it with Zeke Elliott. They took him very early. They don't regret that pick. Zeke Elliott was fantastic for them, right? Like they don't regret taking Zeke Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley, the Rams, the first time they lost the Super Bowl, but Todd Gurley led them to a Super Bowl in a year and then had his knee issues pop up. So it's not like taking them early doesn't work for teams. It does, but it's just, is it worth it? And I would bet that he ends up going high because the buzz around him is just so high right now. But he'll be an interesting to watch. The running back position always is. Not a top-heavy receiver draft like we've seen in recent years by any means either. So he's a player I think that's become really interesting. Will Levis is a player that's become really interesting, as well as these quarterbacks. I don't know if you got, Paul, who is your favorite quarterback in this draft class?
Well, I kind of like Will Levis. I mean, I said that last Monday.
Upside. Yeah, Monday.
Monday. I just think that he is one of those guys that I see potential. Nah, but he's a quarterback, for guys' sakes, Jacob. How often have I been wrong on a quarterback? Well, I'm going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to. I've been wrong numerous times when it comes to trying to pick quarterbacks. So I've been wrong with that. But here's the thing. You are very, very accurate when you're talking about Bijan Robinson, you're talking about a kid going to a team who needs to fill a niche here or there. But it's also he's going to go to a team that's probably going to be pretty good and doesn't have a lot of spots that they've got to fill. They don't feel the pressure to fill like 8 or 9 positions out through the draft. And nobody in that situation is going to take Bijan Robinson. But if you've got a good football team and you can take basically the best player available, that might be Bijan Robinson. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But it's going to be a team that can. Yeah. But you're exactly right, and I like the way you phrased it. But really, you phrased it better than I did, which is not uncommon on this show, is it?
Yeah. Well, listen. We will get through it. I don't think any of us have a great idea. The draft is a fun experience. That's what makes it fun, is the unpredictability. All right, we're going to come back. We got lots still to come on the show today. We've got Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, coming in the second hour. Aaron Rodgers says his goodbye to the Packers.
Oh, geez.
How do we feel about that? Paul's got a Little League umpire story he wants to get into just a little bit. We got all kinds of good stuff coming, plus a couple of giveaways. So keep it here. It's Sports Daily. Whether you're listening to us, you can call us on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, or you're at work and you've got the video stream up because, well, you're not supposed to. We say hello and thank you for tuning in any way that you do to the program. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Stage.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage, rolling ahead on a Tuesday. Paul Tommy just sent a message. He's a little concerned about the new camera angle on you being that up close and personal. We're just trying to roll this video stream out. Don't want to frighten anybody, scare anybody away.
Well, listen, it's already in. Our numbers on women 55 and older in this city, our numbers are skyrocketing. We are on a rocket going up with that demographic. I think it's really wonderful. Ladies,
how do you know that's not my how do you know that's not a demographic related directly to me?
What? Come on. Look at you and look at me. Come on now. Really? Come on.
That's true. That's true. You're right. You're right, Paul. You can watch the video stream on our KFH Facebook page or KFH YouTube page. You can chime in there. Also find it on the Sports Daily Twitter page. You, of course, are listening to us on KFH, the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, the number to call there. Let's get into Aaron Rodgers here just a bit, Paul. Leaves a long, Instagram farewell to the Packers. Quote, "This is not the end for us. I'll see you again, Green Bay. You'll always have my heart." How do you think that Rodgers will be received short and long term by the Packer fans, Paul?
Well, I think they're going to feel abandoned. And I threw up a little in my mouth on this message that he left because it was so over the top. And by the way, it wasn't exactly a short message. This was a long message. And basically to say how much I love you, how much I care, how much you've meant to me, how much my friendships have meant, how much this, how much that, how much I loved being a Packer. You left. It's like a divorce. You leave the ex-wife, and then you say, oh, I'm going to miss you. I love you. Oh, you've meant so much to me, and now we're divorcing. Then don't leave. If that's where you're at, I'll tell you what, I found it to be sanctimonious at best and condescending at worst. How about that? For what I thought of his message? He would have been better off to say thanks, Green Bay, for the memories. See you when we play you. He would have had my respect on that, but everything else was just over the top, didn't you think? I mean, or am I not being sentimental enough? Maybe
No, I don't know.
Maybe I need to be more
know.
sentimental. That's probably what it is. I need to be.
I think you've got to be able to separate out. You got to be able to separate out the maybe friction with the front office. I don't know that Rodgers, and in fact, I don't believe that he has any friction with the fan base, right? I think that he's loved Packer fans. I think that's always been pretty clear. I just don't know that it has been a good fit. He's an interesting personality anyway. Like, I cannot think of a more different personality to have with, the blue collar nature of Wisconsin in the Midwest than Aaron Rodgers and his sort of like neo hippie lifestyle, which is fine. I don't care about that. I'm just saying, like, it's always been an interesting fit, right? He loves the cold weather, which is always related to them. He's obviously been successful. They haven't won the amount of Super Bowls they should have. But if you had to like define a personality on and off the field, and I'm talking about while they were playing, not the drama now, Brett Favre seems like he would have been more of a natural like personality fit with the fans of Green Bay. Now, again, that's before all the nonsense with Favre we've been dealing with after his career. But just as a player, because we have some similarities here, right? Like all this long career, Hall of Fame career, all the MVPs. Favre had them, Rodgers had them, and neither of them probably won the amount of Super Bowls. I think if you were being honest with yourself, you really felt like they should have won. You've got, in Favre at the time, the statistical one of the, the all-timers, and Rodgers by our eyes and ability, one of the all-timers. And they just don't have a lot of championships to show for it. But I think Packer fans, in the short term, their feelings are probably hurt because it felt like Aaron Rodgers has wanted to leave for a while. But it has nothing to do with the fans, right? If I'm a Packers fan, I'm probably more annoyed with the front office than I am with Rodgers because it wasn't able to get more championships. I don't think if I was a Packers fan, I would be annoyed with either, by the way. I think I would nostalgically look back and say, well, that's a hell of a run. And good luck to Rodgers in the rest of his career. I don't know. You'd have to ask Patriot fans that question, right? Like, were you able to root for Brady with the Bucs in trying to win Super Bowls? I don't know the answer to that. Now, long term, there's no question Brady's always going to be a Patriot and the fans are always going to love him. I think long term, there will always be an affinity for Aaron Rodgers. And I think in his goodbye, I think it's the timing, Paul, that when you say it makes you want to throw up in your mouth. I think it's the timing where you're like, yeah, whatever, dude. But I think it's legitimate. I don't think Rodgers has ever had an issue with fans or anything but love for the fans in Green Bay. And I think that feeling when the dust settles on this will be mutual. Now, if he goes and does something crazy like wins a Super Bowl with the Jets, that would be different than Brady with the Bucs because Brady with the Patriots got plenty of them, right? And then It's like, oh, wow, he did it again.
Right.
If Rodgers goes and wins a Super Bowl somewhere else, then, you're going to have some angry Packer fans for sure.
Right. Well, let me just give you a line from his letter. Just one line. I'm going to read it a little dramatically, if that's all right with you, because I want to get the feel for this. I grew up in Green Bay, drafted at 21, fell in love with the game, met some lifelong friends, and take with me memories that will last a lifetime. Hello? I mean, for God's sakes, how
Thespian Paul is speaking.
yeah, but I mean, come on now. I mean, that's over the top. Just say I enjoyed my time. We won some championships. We had a great time, won a lot of games. See you later. We're going to beat the stinking pants off of you when we see you at with the New York Jets. So that's how I would have really liked to have seen it. But we go into a letter that basically thanks the guys in the locker room, thanks the guys in the weight room, thanks to guys in the in the doctor's offices and the training rooms and all. I mean, we go into all of that, and I get it, and I guess that's nice. A lot of people got mentioned, a lot of names got mentioned, and I guess that's okay. But this is one of those things where the Packers were magnanimous, if you ask me, in taking in Aaron Rodgers. Granted, he's a great quarterback, and I would have loved him too, and I don't care what he thought. But Green Bay's an unusual town, and interestingly enough, when we've driven up to Green Bay to play indoor professional football, the indoor arena is just a block from Lambeau Stadium, and we're right there. That's a very conservative town. It really is. It's not Milwaukee. It's very conservative. And, you bring a guy in who's 21 years of age, and he comes to Green Bay from Berkeley. Now, Berkeley isn't exactly what we would call Green Bay Packer territory. That's, Green Bay is a very conservative city. Berkeley is a rather liberal city. And Green Bay embraced this man and really did fall in love with him over time. And I get that, but he won a lot of games, and I get that too. But this is just one of those things where I really hate to see it. I just hate to see him leave. I would have finished if it's been me. Money's not an issue, I don't think, is it, Jacob? Money's not an issue.
He's going to get the money
wherever. He's going to get the money wherever he goes. If he stays in Green Bay, I would have stayed and finished up and just made this my place. Green Bay is an icon in the world of professional football. New York City, not so much.
The Packers right now need to Packer fans. If I'm a Packer fan, I'm thanking Aaron Rodgers, because here's the reality. They weren't going to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers for the rest of his career. And they had their shots, and they gave it their best shot. Sure. And it is time for the organization to retool and reload and start over. Aaron Rodgers, allowed Green Bay to get a pretty good draft haul for him and free up that money and give the team a chance to see Jordan Love. Think back to Brett Favre and going to play for the Jets, interestingly enough, and the Vikings. At the time, you might feel scorned by that, but it also allowed Rodgers the opportunity to play. If Favre had just rode it out with Green Bay, Rodgers would have never been the quarterback there. So, Favre leaving was the best thing that ever happened to Green Bay. There is absolutely a chance that Rodgers leaving could be the best thing that ever happened to Green Bay, regardless of what he does somewhere else, because he's too late in his career for it to work now in Green Bay. So I get it from Rodgers' standpoint. If you want to go try to win a Super Bowl, there's other teams that give you a better chance to do that at this twilight stage of your career. You've never really been able to go just test the waters, sort of like the Brady thing, right? He'd never been able to be a free agent before. And this gives Green Bay the best chance to succeed long-term. Had they just rode it out with Rodgers for 2 more years, they weren't going to win any championships. They wouldn't have seen Jordan Love play. You would have had that hanging over your head anyway. This frees up Jordan Love to go take a shot. They get a little bit of draft capital back. They free up all that money. The reality for Packers fans is Rodgers leaving is the best thing that happened to the franchise. As much as it hurts because you love the player, it was still the right thing to do from Green Bay's standpoint. And that's why I think ultimately, regardless of what Rodgers does, outside of win a Super Bowl this year, and even if that happens, long term, Packers fans are going to look fondly back. You think they're going to forget about all the good times because he played 2 years somewhere else? Because the move helps Green Bay. There's no question it helps Green Bay. And they weren't going to win a Super Bowl anyway.
Well, you mentioned Love, and I'm not sure that he's your next great quarterback. I'm a long ways away from being convinced he's going to be a great quarterback.
Well, sure.
But
what did you think about Aaron Rodgers before he got his shot?
Well, I was probably in the same camp, to be real truthful.
Of course you were. We hadn't seen him play. Like Love, we haven't seen him play.
Well, we've seen him play enough to know that he's got a long ways to go. How about that? Is that fair enough? I think that's a good way of putting it. But with that being said, it's one of those things where, you just go, listen, and you say they wouldn't win a Super Bowl. Well, I think they're a lot closer to having a chance to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers than they are with Jordan Love.
Green Bay?
Yes.
Did you watch Green Bay last year?
Yes. I said, because you replace a couple spots, you fill a couple of things.
No.
Well, I'm just saying,
Green Bay.
Who gives you the better chance at quarterback to win a Super Bowl?
Their goal has to change. What I'm saying is, it's not time to go win a Super Bowl this year. It's time to reload this roster.
Well, I don't know.
It's an aging roster.
Yeah,
you got some draft capital. You freed up the money, and you've got to take a look at Jordan Love.
Right.
The Packers aren't a Super Bowl. They weren't going to be a Super Bowl contender with Rodgers. I mean, so it doesn't, like, to me, if I'm a practical Packers fan, I'm looking at this like, yeah, it's the best thing we could have done. Like, this is going to ultimately be the best thing that could have happened to us, because we weren't going to win a Super Bowl anyway. There's lots of teams in the NFL that know they're not going to win a Super Bowl.
You satisfied with the draft picks? If you're Green Bay,
I think they got a haul, Paul. I think they got a haul. I think they did a great job. And they freed up all that money.
Maybe so for a 39-year-old guy. Maybe you're right. I wasn't quite sure that it was enough, but now that you mention it, maybe I need to re-examine.
Maybe it was extra first-round pick next. If Rodgers plays, I think 65% of the snaps.
That's not a sure deal. Yeah, right. Good.
They get an extra first, and at worst an extra second.
Right.
Yeah, I think absolutely they did well in the trade. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll give some stuff away. I want to get to this umpire story briefly before we get into the second hour and catch up with Kevin Saul, Wichita State's athletic director. 869-1240 is the IHOP hotline. This is Sports Daily. We'll be right back. Call your shot every Wednesday at BetMGM, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Place a $25 home run prop wager on any game, and you'll receive a $10 bonus bet. Simply log into your account and opt in, or download the app and sign up with BetMGM to swing for the fences on MLB Call Your Shot Wednesdays. There's just one more reason why the King of Sportsbooks is the best place to bet on baseball. BetMGM and GameSense reminds you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager, Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Welcome back into Sports Daily. Speaking of that, BetMGM Call Your Shot Wednesday, Paul. I've got mine in, and I'm taking Josh Young of the Rangers. They're in, the bandbox, Great American Ballpark for an afternoon game. Young always got a shot to get one out of the yard. That's where I'm placing my Call Your Shot Wednesday. If anybody wants to partake, I actually got a home run prop bet with him earlier this week that paid. So we'll see if Josh Young can get it twice for me as the Rangers play the Reds today.
Come on, Josh.
Let's get it, Josh. Let's get a giveaway set up here real quick. We've got a couple giveaways today. We'll do Monday Night Raw first. We've got Kevin Saul on tap here for the start of the second hour. So let's do this giveaway here now to our first caller. Monday Night Raw, June 12th at 6:30. Intrust Bank Arena, we got a pair of tickets for you. Cody Rhodes, Bianca Belair, Seth Rollins, all the stars are going to be there. Monday Night Raw, it is the live show. It's a TV show. June 12th, 6:30. First caller, 869-1240 to the IHOP hotline. Jad will get us a winner there. Paul, as he does that, and as we get ready for hour number 2 with Kevin Saul, you sent a story over, and this is on Little League umpiring, and I'd heard this before. So this is in New Jersey. Basically, the league has set a rule after some unruly fans in Little League were giving the umpires a hard time. If you give an umpire a hard time here, Paul, in order to come back to the next game, you've got to then go back and umpire, 2-3 games yourself, and put it on and put on the mask and get back there and do it. It's a pretty good idea here. As umpires and referees are heckled to the extreme far too often in these sports. I think people forget, you've got to get people to come be willing to do this in the first place. Good for this league for doing this.
Well, and thank you to Jack Oliver from 103.7 KEYN. He gave me this on our last break, and he says, this is an interesting story. And I said, man, you're exactly right. Now, the rule is, any spectator who confronts an umpire during a game, now that's the word confront. I don't know that holler or, yell or disapprove of a call counts, but it's confronts an umpire during a game, must umpire 3 games themselves before being allowed in as a spectator. Before coming back to even watch the game as a spectator, you've got to umpire 3 games. Now, let's point out in this particular league, all the umpires are volunteer. They don't get paid. Hello? Come on. What are you going to do? You're going to get on an umpire who's not even being paid, who's volunteering their time, and you're going to ride them hard for a call you don't like? What kind of parent and what kind of example are you setting for these youngsters? But anyway, I found this to be a great story because it really makes a great point, and it says to people there are consequences for confronting an umpire. And don't you think we need that in society today?
Yes.
I'm a believer that we need consequences for actions. I mean, we've all had it. For God's sakes, how many times did your bottom get busted by your mom and dad when you were growing up? Because there were consequences for the things that our sweet angelic Jacob did, and there'd be consequences for those kind of things. So I like this story. I love this story. I can almost see where this story could apply to other aspects of life. But I really like this story because if you don't like the way a game's being called, here's your chance to show us how it's got to be done. Jacob, this is a great example of what needs to be done in Little League Baseball. I hope this picks up steam, and I hope this takes. I hope this kind of change happens in all the Little League Baseball leagues all the way across the country. And there's a lot of them, and we've got some really good ones right here in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah, it's tough. I think that, booing a bad call is a fun part of a game.
Right.
But that's about it.
That's
right.
it.
Like just a boo. We don't like that call.
Right. No profanity.
Heckling is a bit much for me. So
right.
Yes. And now at the youth level, you better get over it. Yeah. Get your butt out there if you think you can do a better job.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Especially on a volunteer basis.
Gotcha.
Good story. That was an entertaining story. All right. The IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. We're going to jump on it with Kevin Saul, Wichita State's athletic director, when we come back. Just a ton to talk about. Women's hoops, men's hoops, softball, baseball. Wichita State active in the middle of a lot of interesting things. We'll touch on it all with Kevin Saul when we return on Sports Daily.
Laugh Out Loud Mornings with Bob and Tom on 97.5 and 1240 KFH, Wichita's most listened to sports radio. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Guests already trust IHOP to make their breakfast favorites, and Eggs Benedicts are no different. IHOP has covered all the flavors you crave with their new line of Benedicts, from the classic Black Forest ham to the spicy fire-roasted poblano, or maybe the rich bourbon bacon jam, to the fresh pesto veggie, and more. IHOP has upgraded to high-quality hollandaise that is rich and creamy. Uses delicious poached eggs, or eggs however you like them, and throw in a toasty English muffin for the perfect Eggs Benedict. Visit IHOP today and try the new Benedicts.
Guys, struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Our technology is clinically proven to open and regrow blood vessels. Today only at Lux Wave Men's Clinic, you qualify for a free assessment, exam, ultrasound, and 3 follow-up treatments. A $750 value at no cost to you. Get back on track and get rid of those pills. Put a stop to your ED. Call Lux Wave Men's Clinic now at 316-364-3747, 316-364-3747, or online at luxwavemensclinic.com.
The NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of KFH. The promo code is my name, Ted, T-E-D, Ted. Visit FanDuel.com/TED right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, the app is safe and secure, and you get paid instantly. Just go to FanDuel.com/TED and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. No better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Kansas. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save on the brands you trust. Right now, buy a select Bosch 12-volt bare tool starting at $99 and get a Bosch 12-volt battery starter kit free. Plus, as an MVPs member, earn up to 3 times the bonus points when you buy select products that you can then redeem for rewards. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See sales associate for details. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 4/28. Subject to change.
Get 11% off everything. Now at Menards. Protect vehicles, outdoor equipment, and more with Shelter Logic storage products. Menards carries a great selection of easy-to-assemble canopies, shelters, and garages that hold up against the elements. Right now, get a 10 by 12-foot round-top shelter for only $279.99 after 11% off. Good through April 30th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Work or play, Line-X of Wichita has you covered. Our spray and bed liners come with a nationwide lifetime warranty. We carry and install truck accessories, window tint, undercoating, and more. Stop by or call today, 316-858-1197. Don't just protect it, Line-X it.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob and Tom.
TikTok users are now trying to make a so-called healthy ice cream using cottage cheese.
Ice cream is so perfect. Why mess with it?
Drew, do you like cottage cheese?
I did prior to. I liked it like 2 minutes ago.
Do you like the pineapple in the cottage cheese? Maybe a pineapple ring? How about salt and pepper? Huh? What do you guys put in your cottage cheese?
Answer me!
Man, I'm glad he's back.
Bob and Tom in the morning and highlights all day long.
Bob and Tom, mornings. This is 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hey, Shocker fans, want the latest on Wichita State athletics? Let's go right to the source with Shocker AD Kevin Saul.
And welcome back to hour number 2 on the program here, everybody. Glad to have you with us on Sports Daily. It's Albracht and Savage today. Tommy will be back next week. You can get in touch with the program on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Thanks to everybody joining on our video stream right now, KFH Facebook page, KFH YouTube page, and on Twitter on the Sports Daily. Joining the program now on the IHOP hotline, Wichita State Athletic Director Kevin Saul. Took a brief break while you went and found a women's basketball coach. Kevin, we'll get back to that in a minute. A lot to get to. Let's start with the most topical, Wichita State baseball and softball. Man, it is buzzing right now for those spring sports as both teams are making pushes here to do some, hopefully, postseason potentially damage. Now, I guess baseball, we can start there. Postseason back on the radar here, Kevin.
Good morning, guys. How are you? It's great to be with you, Jacob and Paul. Paul, I hear you're performing remarkably in the pinch hitting role this morning. So
doing my best.
A pleasure to be with you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Had a great weekend against obviously the sweep against number 7 ECU, who came in with a top 10 team ERA, pitching staff ERA, and a top 10 batting average in the country, and really shut those guys down. It was a great weekend for our baseball program, and certainly something that we envision in the fall, working through some challenges. And it was great to see our guys just absolutely have some fun and compete really well, represent our community and our university really, really well. So, yeah, it's we made a 40-point jump in the RPI from 121 to 88 after that weekend. Still a lot of work to do to position yourself. Really need to be in the top 40, top 45 to be in consideration for the at-large. But again, I think we've got a squad that can go down to Clearwater and win a conference tournament as well. So we're certainly everybody's pulling in that direction, want to be in postseason play again.
Do you think, Kevin, as a follow to that, we know there's not a lot of time left for softball in that RPI standing. We'll get to that in just a second. But for baseball, there is still quite a bit of schedule to play with some nice midweek games to mix in there as well. Is there enough left in the regular season, do you think, potentially to get up those next 40 spots before even we get to the conference tournament? Or are we sort of still in a...
I think we're in a little bit of flux. It's a hard question to answer. I mean, even as I sit here today, I'm looking at baseball RPI this morning. we had jumped from 121 to 88, as I mentioned, and even in today's edition, we've gone from 88 to 93. So we've got some work to do. You know, we've got AAC weekend series is against Memphis, Houston, South Florida, and Central Florida, which certainly provides some strong hits to your RPI. We've got midweeks against Oral Roberts and K-State with a Kansas game tonight. So certainly we need to do some great work here over the next several weeks to position ourselves in a good spot for an at-large. To jump from 93 into the top 40, we're going to need to do a really good job over the next several weeks. But I'd also mention to you, obviously, we sit at the top of the league. A lot of baseball still to play. We've got an opportunity to go to Houston for our second series with those guys. So obviously that will be an incredibly important weekend as we position ourselves for AAC conference seedings and that tournament pairing. So again, it's early. We got a lot of work to do, but we're certainly hopeful and optimistic.
You know, it's really cool because I'm trying to remember the last time softball had an opportunity to maybe host a regional. Host a regional, Kevin. Man, that is big. In my opinion, it's huge. When you look at the requirements to host a regional, I know you and your staff are already probably delving into what do we need to do? How do we got to handle this? What do we got to have available for teams? All the ins and outs. What goes on with trying to get a regional? I'm just curious in terms of Wichita State, your staff, yourself, what's involved in getting a regional, and how sure are you that you're going to get one?
Well, I appreciate that question and multiple questions there. And I've been blessed to, throughout my journey, we've had an opportunity to host just boatloads of NCAA championships and conference championships. So there is a defined process for that. Actually, Paul, the bids were due for NCAA softball regionals and super regionals last Friday. So we submitted our bid package, which includes a very extensive facility survey, diagrams, maps in terms of where you're putting team hospitalities, how your rotations are going to work, what the preferred game times are, the financial components in terms of tickets sold. So you want to put together a competitive and aggressive bid package, which we've done. The way softball works is you have throughout the season, you have regional advisory committees. So I think there's about 6 or 8 regional advisory committees throughout the country that's comprised of administrators and coaches, and they submit rankings every week. And then the national committee takes those regional rankings and molds them into, to a rank order so that it helps the committees work throughout the year. It informs their work throughout the year. But ultimately, the committee will get together towards the end of the season, and they will determine the 16 host sites for the regionals. There's 4 teams at each regional, so you got a 64 team bracket, 16 host sites in the regional round, and then you've got 8 host sites in the super regional round. There's a lot of variables that come into that decision making. The rankings, as we discussed, geography is important. The NCAA has made it very clear that they try to be really efficient with, bus and plane travel. So geography does play a role in that. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't look at, the top 20 ranking in softball. You've got Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Wichita. And so, again, 4 institutions that are relatively close together from a geographical standpoint. So if you look at that from a committee's perspective, there's 12 visiting teams that all would be coming into a very tight geographical area. So do I see 4 regional host sites out of those 4 institutions? The answer is I don't know. And so we've got to position ourselves in a really good spot, do the best that we can. Obviously, from a softball perspective, we're in rarefied air. We're a 40-8 team right now, and we've got 4 more games in the regular season. We're at Tulsa this weekend, and we finish up at Kansas next Wednesday. Then we get into the American Athletic Conference Championship. So, presumably we hold our spot at the top of the league, do a great job here in the next week. You'd be the number 1 seed. I think you advance immediately into the semifinals, so you'd have 2 games in the AAC tournament. We don't want to count our chickens before they're hatched, but you've got an opportunity to play, 6 games here between now and the end of the American Athletic Conference Championship. You do a great job, and now all of a sudden you're in that mid 40s from a win perspective, and it creates an incredibly attractive resume from a team perspective. So again, a lot of work to do. I think I'd be over promising and under delivering if I told you I felt 100% sure we'd get a regional. But I can tell you we're in the conversation. We are squarely in the conversation, and certainly we're going to do everything we can to achieve that.
Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, joining us here on Sports Daily. Always appreciate the visits. And that's, I think, Kevin, what makes, yesterday's cancellation sting a little bit more for Shocker fans, the opportunity to go after Oklahoma, as the Shockers have done twice now against Oklahoma State. But 4 games left, and then hopefully, I would think, right, is it a scenario where we probably ought to root for UCF and the AAC just from an RPI standpoint? It feels like that's about the only potential matchup the rest of the way that would improve that standing. Certainly it feels like they need to win most, if not all of them, but you kind of root now to get UCF again to try and help boost that resume a little bit. Am I overthinking that?
No, you're absolutely right. And obviously that's why the conference tournament is structured such that the top seeds receive buys so that you have an opportunity to bolster that RPI through the conference tournament. So I think that's really important. We currently sit, as of games through yesterday, we sit at 21 in the RPI. Again, we mentioned that there's 16 host sites. That doesn't always go to the top 16 because, as I mentioned, geography plays a role in that. There may be some institutions that did not submit bids within the top 20. Looking at this year's top 20 field, I would think most of them have submitted bids because they've been longtime regional hosts. But again, in any given year, guys, I've seen those regional opportunities slip down to 18, 19, and 20. In fact, we hosted a regional at Kentucky when I think we had 8 SEC teams in the field of 64. We were either somewhere between a 19 and a 21 seed, and we hosted. So those opportunities can slip down below 16. Not playing last night certainly hurts us a little bit. And take a few moments to address that. Obviously, we have to make decisions based on the best information that we have at the time that we need to make those decisions. And getting Oklahoma to travel up from Norman when you've got 1.5 inches of rain that's that's forecasted between basically 2 p.m. and 1 a.m. makes no sense at all. I've been on both sides of that deal, and obviously if we could find somebody that can predict the weather 100%, we'd be in a really good spot. But that hurt a little bit last night. Obviously that was an opportunity for us to bolster our RPI, but we deal with what we have and the cards that we can play, and I'm confident Christy and her staff will finish very strong and put us in a great position.
Coach, you sure hit a home run when it comes to the hiring of a ladies basketball coach. I really think it's a great hire. Terry Nooner is a veteran. He understands the game. But you know what I like about the hire in particular? He knows Kansas. He understands the state of Kansas. He understands how to get players to come to the state of Kansas. I think he's a good hire, and I really anticipate him doing a very, very good job at Wichita State. Thoughts on the hire of Coach Nooner?
Well, Paul, I appreciate you saying that. Obviously, we're incredibly excited to partner with Terry and his family. He's got a great young family, 3 kids, Tracy, his wife, and just great people that will be great representatives of Wichita State. I think that's first and foremost, is an individual that could be a great partner, that's interested in that partnership. But you look at the 2 critical components, and we addressed it last week at the introductory event. Terry has an innate ability to create and maintain phenomenal relationships with people. He's got great relationships with the student athletes. All the calls that we've made to the previous head coaches that he's worked on their staff, talked to student athletes. When he informed his Jayhawks team last week, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. And that's a measure of the strength of his relationships with the student athletes. So when we talk about transfer portals and NIL and all those things, the one piece that carries you through all that and creating a first-class student-athlete experience is the relationship with their coaching staff. So really, really important aspect there. On the basketball side, he's been at some great places, obviously, at 2 stints at Kansas, Alabama, Maryland. He's got a 2 decades-long relationship with the girls AAU organization, the Missouri Phenom, and so is really plugged in from a recruiting standpoint. He's from Raytown, Missouri, obviously played at Kansas. I don't think you can sell short the attributes that allow an individual to walk on at the University of Kansas and earn a scholarship on a Roy Williams basketball team. So he's resilient, he's passionate, he's energetic, he's got a lot of energy, and just really thrilled to be joining with Terry and his staff. And again, guys, I think we've got some good news coming out this afternoon. We're going to release Terry's staff as well to the media, so look forward to the excitement to be generated from that as well.
And just on Nooner, Kevin, Wichita State Athletic Director Kevin Saul joining us, and he talked about this in his introduction. And for me, when I've watched Wichita State basketball over the past, close to a decade, the one thing that I think can elevate it, there is such a rich tradition of girls basketball at the high school level here, and we have so many incredible players, leaving the state of Kansas. Yeah, how important do you think it is to him? And did you guys have this conversation as a part of the interview process? If we could get some of those girls to stay closer to home, because there are incredible players that leave this region every single year.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly was a significant part of our discussion was the recruiting footprint. He's got, you look at his stops throughout his career. Clearly, he's got the ability to recruit first-class, elite-level talent in the Midwest. His time at Alabama certainly opened up the Southeast and relationships for him there. His time at Maryland is critically important to his network as well. So I think it's a combination of, Jacob, as you mentioned, keeping elite talent closer to home, but also having the ability and the reach to go nationally. And I think that will resonate really well with our fans as well. If we can get some regional talent on our roster that's successful. And I'm confident as you guys review the staff release this afternoon, you will see a very high priority placed on keeping and retaining elite level talent here locally.
Having gotten to know you a little bit, Kevin, over the last few months, one of the appreciations that I have for you is your appreciation of sports history, and particularly when it relates to a school like Wichita State, because Wichita State has such a rich sports history. And you've probably seen the announcement. We're really proud at the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame to induct Randy Burns this year, along with Strong Hinman and Sandy Sandler, who is the greatest tennis player of all time in the history of Wichita State. And, one of the things about being an AD is that you walk the tightrope of appreciating those who have come before you, and yet making it a possibility to even excel to greater heights than those who have come before you. And one of the things I really appreciate is your appreciation of history. How important is Wichita State history, sports history to you, particularly when you look at a guy like Strong Hinman going into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame, who was Wichita State's very first Shocker Hall of Famer, played his sports in 1912. 1912. But anyway, talk a little about how important history is to you.
Well, I think the history is really what gives us the opportunities it provides our opportunities for today. You talked, my journey was a young person growing up in Manhattan, Kansas. And so, I've talked at length and numerous times about, how life steers you towards certain occupations. And my dad was a psychology professor in the Department of Psychology at Kansas State, and mom was an advisor in the College of Arts and Sciences. And so for us, it was all about student and program development. And I was really into sports as a young person. I followed Kansas State and Kansas and Wichita State. And so the history to me is very important. I'm a Kansas kid. And I think all those things are really important. There's a few elements that, I really got into program development when you started to study the turnaround in the football program at K-State and how and why that happens and the organizational dynamics and communication. And, that's a history that changed dramatically over the course of 5 to 10 years, Coach Snyder's first 5 to 10 years in his deal. And I think you get to that by day-to-day improvement, right? And so the history is incredibly important because it sets the tone and the context for what you're trying to do as an individual athlete or as a program in a particular athletics department. I'll use an example like softball, right? Our softball program is doing things that they've never done before in the history of our softball program. And that's a result of Coach Bredbender and her staff, a committed group of student athletes over the last decade that have committed to improving the history of a particular program. Not to say that the history prior to their arrival was bad, but everything starts somewhere and you commit to day-to-day improvement, season-to-season improvement. And so that's how it works from a programmatic standpoint. And I'm excited to be a part of that as an administrator, try to remove obstacles and create clarity and pathways where we can improve and do things that have never been done before or haven't been done in a long time. And then I think it takes also the impact of what I call pathway student athletes, right? Sid McKinney is a pathway. She's created a pathway through, as an individual student athlete, through our softball program where you can achieve unbelievable things. You can be a multiple year All-American honoree. You can be on the national softball team, and you can do all those things through Wichita State softball. You know, John Morant at Murray State. I spent time with John. John was a pathway guy. You can be the top 2 pick in the NBA through that program. You can do remarkable things. And so I think it's a combination of all of those things, a respect and appreciation for our history and those that we build on top of their contributions, because nobody gets there alone. And so all of those achievements and contributions that have happened over many, many decades are the foundation from which we build our programs today. So really important. And you got to have great people. You got to have elite student athletes that can create those pathways and great coaches and staff that are committed to a vision of doing things that have never been done before, haven't been done in a long time.
I've been kind of buttering you up on that question, partly because one of our Hall of Fame inductions, and we're doing all the Hall of Fame inductions on KFH radio this year, interviewing the inductees. And so I'm kind of I'm putting you on the spot. I was hopeful that I might be able to borrow you one morning and come on Sports Daily with Jacob and myself, and except for Strong Hinman, and just talk about Strong Hinman for a minute or two. He's been gone for a long time, but I would like to, if it's okay with you, present you at a later date than his Hall of Fame induction plaque, and make sure that Wichita State has it and will be able to do whatever they need to do with it. And would that be possible? Could I set up a time in the next month or so and get you on the radio one more time, and we'll induct Strong Hinman?
Yeah, I would be honored to do that. I really appreciate that, and would be honored to do that on behalf of Strong and everybody that has been touched by his performances. You know, you look back at, he lettered in football, basketball, track, and baseball from 1912 to 1917. And not only did those things well, was captain of the basketball team in 1913. So it's just, to me, those are, again, that's the foundation from which we build. And those are critical components to our history. So I would love to be a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Kevin.
All right, Kevin, let's spend a couple of minutes here on men's basketball. It's sort of, just a steady pattern now. We've seen, I think officially, I want to say it's 4 players coming in, but a nice mix of guys, a nice mix of players. I think we're starting to see a trend here. I don't know if you feel this way of, talented players looking for maybe bigger opportunities here or bigger platforms in some cases. How have you felt about, how this group is coming together for Paul Mills now as he continues to work to get this roster ready for next year?
Well, certainly been pleased with Paul's staff. Obviously named a very capable and very well experienced staff, and it's been great working with those guys, working at it really hard. The transfer portal closes for entries on May 11th, I believe. So we still have several weeks as we navigate to finalize a roster. But I think you're right. You're seeing some really talented young people that desire to perform on a larger stage, in combination with young people that have committed and been loyal to our program and have stayed. A lot of critical conversations that will occur over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm pleased with where we're headed. Obviously, we continue to work at a bunch of different areas, whether that's roster development, the important critical elements of a program, the player development, player experience, pieces that we continue to work at. We're working at our schedule, working at that really hard, actually, to try and position ourselves in a competitive spot to achieve at-large bids in the future. You guys saw the release of the DePaul game yesterday, and obviously that's one that, as they continue to improve their program, we're trying to get those quad 2 strong opponents on our schedule. So a lot of elements going on, and just really appreciate the opportunity to work with Paul, and they're working really hard at it, and look forward to many good news and good stories here in the next several weeks.
And we are watching intently as well, Kevin. We appreciate it more on that roster as it comes together, and as we get, the NBA draft portion of this thing, it just continues to roll through, and women's basketball has some work to do. And we, of course, got our eye on the postseason for the spring sports. We appreciate it today. We'll talk again in a couple of weeks, I'm sure, with plenty on the plate there as the postseason looms in the spring.
Sounds good. Jacob and Paul, thanks so much for having us on your show. Really enjoy it. Appreciate your role and helping spread good news and stories about Shocker Athletics, and just appreciate your guys' role in that and the partnership. So thank you very much, and go Shockers.
There goes Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director. Plenty to dissect with that. If you'd like to go back and listen, if you're joining us late, you can always do that on the Odyssey app. You can go back and find those as podcasts. Jad gets those chopped up for us. So check it out. A lot that we needed to get through with Kevin there. A lot to get through as we make our way through the rest of the program. 869-1240 IHOP hotline back open for you. Sports Daily here on this Wednesday. Coming right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Our appreciation to Kevin Saul for jumping on the program, Wichita State Athletic Director. Hey, we've got some tickets to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 over at Boulevard Theater in Town West Square. We'll give away that right now. It's a Thursday, May 4th sneak peek of that flick. Jad will get us a winner to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. First caller right now. We've got some Coheed and Cambria tickets to give away as well before the end of the program here. So plenty of opportunities to win cool prizes with us here on Sports Daily. Good stuff with Kevin Saul there, Paul. You know, let's talk about some hoops for a minute because we've talked about baseball and softball quite a bit.
Sure.
It's an interesting class coming together for Paul Mills. And I think there's a theme of players who have big time pedigrees. The big Germany has been successful in college, elevating to a larger platform. A couple of the others have been, maybe the opportunity has wavered a little bit. And I'm excited to see them come in. And the elephant in the room is still Max Asmus, and he is not signed anywhere. And yes, the predictors have, basically penciled him either to Texas or to K-State. But the longer this lingers, the more it makes you wonder if Wichita State's still in play for Asmus. And I think that he probably is because he hasn't gone somewhere else yet. But, there's a chance here with what's come and what may still come that Wichita State is a predictive top 2 to 3 team in the American next year. And I honestly, Paul, I think that's where they need to be.
Well, of course it's where they need to be. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. That's where we sure want them, and it sure makes sports talk radio easier to do when they're good rather than bad. And maybe that's where they're at. But, here's the thing. You and I are living in a world that we're still not sure of, because there was a day when you and I could have broken down recruiting, and we could have broken down to who's being recruited and who you want and who you don't. But everything is so different because you're probably a little like me, Jacob, and I'm going to just say that I'm still figuring out the portal thing, the NIL thing. All these things go hand in hand. I'm still trying to figure just exactly where they all fit in with each particular school, and every school is going to be different. And NIL is obviously playing a big part in where these kids go. And it makes, we don't know if kids will use Wichita State as sort of a hammer to bludgeon someone else, another team, for more NIL money. I don't have a handle on this yet. I'm assuming you probably don't have a handle quite on it yet. We'll figure it out one of these days. We will. Understand. But
it's changing. It's changing every year.
It is.
Yeah, because you've got, the portal rules have already changed.
Yeah.
You kind of get one now, which is probably going to do some settling. I think for Wichita State, if that happens now, and it very well could, if Wichita State is sort of a leverage place for now, I don't think it will be long-term. I think that long-term, Wichita State is going to be an NIL player. I think that for a lot of reasons. I think that, based on the things we're seeing, Kevin Saul has rallied a lot of the troops that need to be rallied to make Wichita State a relevant NIL player. I think that, we can probably put some faith in that continuing to happen based on what we've seen so far. I think that, making a change at head coach for the program is, something that will also support NIL just in the role the coach may take in that. And I think that gives you optimism for it. And I think you're seeing other things, right? An increase in softball facilities, a major investment there. Fred Van Vliet coming to the table for a major weight room facility upgrade. Like, those are the kinds of things that are happening sort of subtly that make me think that the troops are rallying to be effective in the NIL space. And the other reality is, we know that there is a group of Shocker fans that were able to pay a head coach out of the Valley in the top 5 nationally when Greg Marshall was extended, when Alabama got off a plane with a big old sack of money to try and lure him away. They were able to rally and do. So if they can do that, I think that they can absolutely become, and I'm not talking like players in the NIL realm. I'm talking about major players in the NIL realm, because they went from essentially nothing now to this. And I think we're seeing things that would make us just logically infer that that space is getting more fruitful for Wichita State. Now, is it there yet? That's the part I'm with you. I don't know that answer. I don't know where it is, like where are they in comparison to XYZ? That part I don't know yet. But what I think we are seeing is they're getting there, right? And the progress is being made. So long term, I think that gives us hope. And again, here's this opportunity, and it's interesting with Max Asmus, a guy who played for Paul Mills for all those years, had success with him, who, predictive people thought that Wichita State was going to get him. And then those same people thought, nope, it's going to be Texas now, or maybe K-State. And yet here we are. And and Max Asmus still has not made his decision. And that just leads me to believe that if nothing else, Wichita State is relevant in that conversation. And that's important right now. And I think as we look to the future, it will become more important as Wichita State needs to get to that point. But I've been pleased with the players that have come in, through the portal so far. I don't think they're done. It's been a wide variety of players. They just brought in somebody from, at the NBA Academy in Africa. I don't know what that means. I don't know what caliber of players are playing over there at that academy, but it's a different avenue, and it's interesting, if nothing else, to me. And we'll see. What we don't quite know yet is, the high school piece of this, and that'll take a little time now. But I think it's a good start, and I think that they're not done. And I think when push comes to shove and the dust settles on this roster, it's going to be a roster that will be predicted in the top 3 in the league, I would imagine. And that sort of, to me, is the benchmark. And I look, I know preseason predictions don't mean very much, but it matters to relevance in the program because they haven't been predicted very well lately. So if they can get to that point with, FAU coming in, and we know they'll be predicted high, and we know Memphis will be predicted high, if they can get to that point, I think we'll feel pretty good about it.
Well, I think you're really onto something. I don't think there's any question about that. I like the way you're thinking, though, with Wichita State is that one school that is poised for, greatness in the AAC. And I think along with Memphis, I really think over the next few years, Wichita State and Memphis will probably be the 2 teams to beat. That's who it's going to
be. Well, they should be. Right.
Well, they should. Well, yeah, it's more than just they should be. They're actually poised to do it with the way Wichita State's able to recruit and put people in the stands and create that atmosphere, a nice sized city, not too big, not too small. I mean, I like where Wichita State is poised for this particular league. I think it bodes well. And like I say, Memphis is going to be there. I mean, we just know because of who they can recruit, who they've got, who they can get to coach at Memphis. Memphis is going to be a team that's always going to be there. But I don't know why it can't be Wichita State. Now, will SMU make runs here or there? Sure. Will Tulsa get back on to where they've been in the past? It's possible. How about but you don't have Cincinnati, you don't have
FAU nor Texas. I know
there's
lots of teams,
they
but
could
Paul,
be.
we can look up and down that league all we want. The reality is Wichita State also, and I'm certain that this.
Yep.
I'm not worried that it's not happening, but Wichita State also needs to keep one eye open for what may lie ahead potentially to make a jump.
Right.
College conferences are, we're not done with the reshuffling yet, but I think we, in large part, will be within the next, 3 years. So, Wichita State also has to keep one eye open to, I like this American league, this American conference still as it currently stands, but will it look the same in 3 years? And if things go really well for Wichita State right out of the gates, is there maybe a bigger opportunity that they could get into?
Right.
And those things matter too. Look, it's a pipe dream, but when you've got the commissioner, Paul, of the Big 12 continuously talking about and rumor mills swirling of the Big 12 putting a major emphasis on basketball in the very near future, you have to imagine that as a possibility for Wichita State. And if you think that's crazy, we're about 10 years removed from the stretch for Wichita State of Final Four, undefeated regular season, paying the head coach, getting guys to the NBA consistently. If the Big 12 is really expanding that way in basketball, they absolutely would have been interested in Wichita State in its most recent prime, right? Of about 8 to 10 years ago. They would, I would think. So we know that that's out there. And whether it's a pipe dream and not possible, but it's still something to achieve for. And maybe the Big East then becomes, I don't know. And maybe the American is great still in 3 years, but that also looms right now for Wichita State. I think we're seeing the things we need to see to get to that place. Here's the other thing. We also know that women's basketball is becoming a major priority because of what we're seeing with the popularity of that tournament and that sport growing. It's not as, top heavy as it once was. Terry Nooner's got a chance here to reignite a fan base for women's basketball at Charles Koch Arena, which I think absolutely could happen if they start getting to a winning level. I really think that, this community will support women's basketball in the same way it supports softball right now, which is one of the great tickets on campus at the moment. So a lot of exciting opportunities. You got to still deliver. And we're sort of in that, in that realm right now where we're waiting. But exciting, I think, for both programs on the men's and women's side is absolutely fair. All right. Let's give away our last giveaway here on the show as we go to break here. So congratulations to our movie ticket winners, to our WWE Raw ticket winners. Now let's send somebody to see Coheed and Cambria. A pair of tickets to the Cotillion next Friday. Is that next Friday? May 12th. That might be 2 Fridays from now. Either way, it's May 12th at 7 o'clock. Special guest, Deaf Heaven. Coheed and Cambria will give away a pair of tickets as we go to break here. Jad will get us a winner there. Congratulations to all our winners today. Sports Daily coming right back.
We were young and had it all figured out. She was the quiet one and I had the mouth until.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jake Albracht, Paul Savage with you. Paul in for Tommy the rest of the week. Paul, all kinds of good stuff today. Congratulations to Jared, Sean, and Michael for our 3 giveaways on the program. Happy to do that. Love giving stuff away here. We'll get back and get out some HDOT and coffee giveaways once we get through some of this other cool stuff we've got for you. So all kinds. We're always trying to hook the listeners up, Paul, here on Sports Daily.
You know what I want to win? Here's what I want. I want to win that wrestler behind you. I want a chance to
the Macho Man.
I want the Macho Man. Would you sell me the Macho Man?
No.
What do you want? I'll give you.
Well, yeah. Well, let me rephrase
I'll give you 25
that. I mean,
bucks
I'm
right
somewhat sentimental. How much?
$25 cash.
Oh no. Everything's for sale, but no, not that wouldn't get it done.
All right, 30.
No, you add a 0 to the end of it. And let's talk.
Did you say add a 0?
Uh-huh.
Good. What? Geez, I mean, you're kind of valuing that, aren't you? A little bit. I
I
mean,
I'm
too much. Maybe.
I'm delving into the merchandise world with you, Paul. I know this is your world, but yeah, $300, $300, and I'll think about
I'll
it.
pass.
No,
I'll pass.
all right. That's your loss. Your loss. Fine. It's fine. Whatever. We are having some fun here on Sports Daily. We're getting ready for the NFL draft. It's getting closer and closer. I think they're expecting about 300,000 people down there. So we'll have much, much more on that tomorrow. Paul, the NBA playoffs, another night in the books. Trae Young was outstanding. Tonight, you and I were looking forward more to the games tonight, I think, than the games last night. But all kinds of good stuff on the slate for us this evening. Knicks, Cavs. Knicks trying to close that one out, but the Cavs favored at home. Grizzlies favored at home, trying to avoid that series ending. The Bucks at home trying to avoid losing the series to the Heat. And then the one that I think has been the best so far, Warriors Kings back in Sacramento. Golden State's going to have to win a game on the road if they want to get this done. But we got some good games cooking here tonight.
Right. And last night, I really kind of wrote off the Atlanta Hawks. For guys, I was thinking Falcons. The Atlanta Hawks. I was writing them off. I wrote them off like a week ago. And Trae Young, did you see the 3-point to win the game? It was almost from the logo in the center court at the Celtics home venue. He was almost standing on the logo, the jump center logo of the Celtics, where you jump ball. He was almost standing on that. It was one of the most interesting and fun games. I happened to catch the last quarter, which was the quarter. I guess that was the quarter. I haven't seen a last 4 to 5 minutes of any player who is clutch more than Trae Young in that particular situation. It was unbelievable with the way he shot the three, the key shots that he made. Unbelievable. That was a fun game to watch. And I'd written that series off about 2 games ago. Written it off. Thought it was over. Now you're down by
I still think it's over.
Well, yeah, probably so. But it was still fun. It was still.
But it's 3-2. Yeah, it's good because Trae Young is that kind of Trae Young is that kind of a player.
Good.
He's must see TV, and there were rumors that they wanted to trade him. I think that'd be crazy.
Well, that was wasn't that long ago, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, "Are you kidding me? Who is? If I was to say to you, Jacob, right now, who's the closest thing to? Let's say, let me just throw out Steph Curry. Steph Curry, who is the closest player that you would say would be to a Steph Curry?
I'd say Trae Young's in the conversation.
I would say it might be him. I would say it's probably him. That's who I would say.
I am not the NBA expert I once was. There are so many great young players, but yes, I think Trae Young is a franchise player that would never consider trading away.
Never. You can't do it. You can't do it. Yeah. And he's going to have a long career. I mean, he plays a position where that's possible. You look at Steph Curry and what a difference Steph Curry has made to the Warriors. I mean, are the Warriors where they are without Steph Curry? I think that's an obvious no.
Look, Steph Curry, I don't want to put that sort of burden on Trae Young. Steph Curry is an all-time player.
Yeah, he's a generational player, isn't he?
Absolutely. Changed the game probably
the
as much
game.
as any player
That-
has individually changed the game.
Well done.
You know,
Well said.
in just the way that it's played,
Yeah.
and you paved the way and all those things. But you know, Trae Young's a great player. I'm glad to see him alive, and he's developed a good persona too that he's made watching him entertaining. Right, he's got some swagger now that's in there. So, you know, the Nuggets finish off the Timberwolves. No surprises there. But a good night of NBA playoffs back on tap tonight. Looking forward to that. All right, let's take our final break here. We'll come back with more Sports Daily. We'll tell you what's on tap, what's on the network today as we wrap things up on a Wednesday edition. right, that does it for us. Rashad Washington, our Wichita Sports Hall of Fame induction coming up tomorrow with Paul. Coming up today, Jim Rome at 11, Bob and Jeff at 2, Maggie and Perloff at 4, Zach Gelb for just a little bit at 5 before Wichita State baseball. KU takes over on KFH. That pregame coverage begins at 5:40. Congratulations to all our giveaway winners. Our thanks to Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director. Paul, let's do it again tomorrow. For Paul Savage and Chad Chambers, I'm Jacob Albracht. We will see you Thursday.